Hey everybody, how you doing? I hope y'all are getting ready for the new year. I hope y'all spending time with family, chilling, relaxing. I want to hit y'all up with something kind of interesting. A while back, I did an interview with a sister who was in Australia, who recently came back to Japan, but she was in Australia, and we did a little interview about Shigin, because I found her on YouTube. Hit her up, and we got in contact, and we got to talking, and the interview was a wonderful interview. It's all in English, and we talk about a whole bunch of stuff. We talk about me kind of finding Shigin and starting this kind of musical cultural journey, and I also tie into that Byzantine chant, because to be honest, that's one of the reasons why I started doing Shigin was because of, church music. And so I'm gonna play the interview. Hope you like it. Give me some comments below if you want us to talk about some other things, because we're planning to do some other interviews in the future, God willing. And just trying to expand what I talk about, and also where possible, try to find connections between Japanese culture and Orthodoxy to try to, with God's grace, build that bridge. Sorry, my wife is watching TV with her mama laughing, all having a good time. Anyway, enjoy the interview, and I can't wait to hear your comments. Pray for me, pray for each other. Love y'all. Bye.
Hello everyone, I'm Yukari. I have been singing Japanese traditional chanting since I was 12 or 13 years old. I made this YouTube channel to share about my Shigin journey and Shigyo videos, although there were only a few at the moment, but hopefully I will be able to upload more about Shigin video. So over a year ago, I updated my Shigin video, and I've got a very miracle message from this person. His name is Justin, but he lives in Tokyo right now, and he's been learning Japanese traditional chanting for a while now. And that was very amazing. I was very happy that I received the message. We did a video chat right away. We talked over 3 hours, like non-stop. We couldn't stop talking. We were so passionate about music and learning about different cultures. It was amazing talk. So I thought it would be great that we film our conversation and share our thoughts and Shigin journey with many people around the world. So, we decided to film our conversation, and we did. I hope you enjoy this video. どうぞ. So yeah, Justin, thank you so much for your time today.
You're very welcome.
I'm
Thank you
really
for having me.
excited to talk with you today.
Oh, me too.
So I'm really interested in your Shigin journey in Japan. I've been doing Shigin since I was little 12 years old, not that too little, but 12, 13 years old, and I always only young person in the group. And all of my Shigin friends are over 60s and not many young Japanese people, or most of my friends don't know about Shigin at all. It's very old Japanese traditional music. So I'm really interested in your how you discovered this Shigin. And first of all, you came to Japan, and so I want to ask you a little bit about your what brought you in Japan, like what makes you come to Japan, and how did you meet Shigin in Japan?
Well, first again, thank you for having me and setting this up and everything. The Well, okay. I've been in Japan over 8 years, getting closer to 9. Uh,
Mm,
and this is actually my third time in Japan.
mm,
Um, but this time, well, to cut it short a little bit,
mm,
I came in 2013
mm,
and I went to Fukushima.
mm.
Um, and when I was there, I was kind of teaching English, at an Eikawa.
Teach English.
Before that, I kind of want to explain what brought me to Fukushima. So, my first time in Japan was in Fukuoka back in
Oh,
2010.
mm,
And that was a short study abroad,
mm,
like 4 months.
mm,
At that time, I didn't really know much about traditional Japanese culture. Like I knew about it, but I wasn't
mm.
that interested in it. Like I liked kind of like ukiyo-e paintings.
Oh,
I liked looking at them.
mm,
I took an art class when I was in
mm.
Fukuoka,
Yeah.
like an art history
Mm.
class, and that was really cool.
Mm,
I didn't really paint anything, just kind of studied
mm,
about some of the
mm,
Japanese
mm,
art.
mm,
Yeah, it was really cool. But then I came back to the States, and then
mm,
in 2011 was the earthquake and the tsunami
mm.
and nuclear
Yeah, you
power plant.
you were there? You were
No, no,
in
I
Japan
was
at
in
the time?
America when that happened.
Oh,
I just came back.
oh,
But after that happened,
mm,
my university had started this like volunteer program in Fukushima,
mm,
and they were looking for people to send over there for the first group of volunteers. And so
oh,
thank God I got picked, and me and
oh,
9 other students from my university, we went over there. It was like
uh,
9 days. It was 2000. It was June, I
mm,
think, June
oh,
2012.
12.
Yeah, 2012, and that was wild. That was a great
Mm,
experience. And so because of that, after
mm,
I
mm,
graduated 2012. I was like, okay, I want to go back to Fukushima, you
mm,
know. And then,
right.
funnily enough, one of the people who was in charge of that program, he actually
Mm,
carried the torch during the
mm.
Olympics. Um,
What?
the was it the torch relay, right? The with the fire.
Mm,
When they went to Fukushima, he was one of the people to carry the torch. Uh,
eh,
yeah. So that's
wow.
a different
That's
story.
amazing.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Amazing.
And
Mm,
so with that, I
mm,
was like, okay, I'm gonna go back to Fukushima.
mm,
And what eventually led me to Shigin was first
mm,
Ikebana,
mm.
a Japanese flower
Mm.
arrangement.
すごい。
I
Mm,
started doing Ikebana kind of just randomly,
mm,
thanks to partially an elderly couple from my church in the States.
mm,
They had lived in Japan for a couple of years, and one day I was at church. We were having lunch, and the wife, she had these pictures from when uh, they were in Japan. I think the husband was in the military, I think,
mm,
and she showed me pictures of her doing ikebana, and
mm,
that couple, um, John and Lee Glasgow, they were like a wonderful influence because they
mm,
really love
うん。
Japan.
おー、いい
Um,
ね。
and I heard her story, and I was like, okay,
う
that's
ん、
cool. I
うん、
didn't
うん、
really
うん。
care, but sorry, but like I didn't really care. But I was like, hey, that's cool. But when I
う
went to
ん、
Fukushima, I
う
was
ん、
walking down the street, and then I
うん、
saw like a house ikebana school. Right, it's this old, not old, but this traditional kind of Japanese house, and it
う
had
ん、
ikebana, the flower arrangement sign.
う
And
ん。
I was like, hey, that's what the lady from church used to do. And I thought it was interesting, but that was it. I was like, okay, it's
う
interesting.
ん、
But
うん、
that day, I think it was the same day, this old lady was outside watering the flowers, and she looks at me. She's like, "What do you want?" I was like, "Well, I want to try ikebana,
like a
Ah,
little bit. I didn't like, I was like, whatever. I have time,
oh,
right?
oh, oh.
And she's like, oh wow, what she say? She's like, you're my first foreign student in like 15 years or something, or 10, 12 years, right?
Because it's in Fukushima and
Yeah.
countryside, and then
I
not
mean,
many
kind of. I mean,
foreigners.
yeah, it was in Iwaki, and Iwaki and Fukushima. There's a lot of foreigners, but
Mm,
not many of them
yeah,
really do the
not many.
flower arrangement, right? And
So
so
you
we did
went just
that.
into you went to just walk and just talk to her.
Yeah, I mean, because it was really close to where I worked, and I
Mm,
think I was just walking down the street one day because just
mm,
kind of just
mm,
having a free day. I think was maybe my
mm,
day off, and then so I started doing the ikebana, and
mm.
then sometime
Ooh.
after that, I don't remember how long, but sometime after that, I looked, I think, on her table, and then there was the Shigin book,
Mm,
and I look at it, I was like, well, what is this? And she's like, oh, this is like it's like music, basically. She's like, it's Japanese singing. I was like, bet, okay, let me look at it. And it looked really wild.
mm,
Um,
mm, mm,
it it had all these red squiggles and all this kanji and stuff in it.
mm, mm.
But I think she let me hear some of it. And I was like, yo, this sounds kind of cool. Okay. And
Oh,
and
yeah.
funnily enough, one of the first things I remember thinking is it sounded kind of like the church music I started learning back in the States.
Mm,
Not exactly like it, of
mm,
course, but a little
mm,
bit. And so that kind of got me interested in it. And then I started doing both. I would go to her house and do the shigin
mm,
and the ikebana.
mm,
And then eventually I kind of drifted away from ikebana. I still love it,
mm,
but I kind of
mm,
moved and focused
mm.
more on shigin. Yeah.
Whoa. So when you sing a little phrase of Shigin or just sing the whole Shigin,
Mhm.
everyone will be like, wow, oh, what's the music? Oh my God, never heard of it. Or, oh, that's beautiful. That always I get those reactions.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. It's different, totally different than pop music. But not many people think that, oh, I want to learn that or I want to sing as well. But you thought you wanted to learn.
Oh yeah. You
Mm,
know, like I said, one of the reasons was because it reminded me of something.
mm,
In this
mm.
case, it reminded me a little bit of church music. So that was like, okay, that's
Right.
interesting.
Ah, I see.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
And then there was also, I think, the challenge part of it.
Mm,
Because it's like, man, this is hard. I want
mm.
to learn how to do this.
Right. And
Yeah,
it's overwhelming, right? When you look at the Shigin textbook, it's all Chinese, old Chinese
yeah,
characteristics that we don't use anymore at this
yeah.
modern age, and I have to learn and hard to read. It must be very overwhelmed.
Well, I mean,
Uh,
I guess, but for me, I don't really think of it as overwhelming,
mm,
because overwhelming can, for many people, when they feel overwhelmed, it
mm,
can be accompanied with like anxiety and
mm,
fear and things
mm,
like that.
mm, mm, mm,
And just me personally, when I look at especially some of the songs when they get longer, because
mm,
I have in one of the books I'm learning from now, there's a song towards the end that's like 4 pages, 5 pages, something like that. And I mean, granted that's a little overwhelming, but it's also, I kind of see it as like a challenge, especially
mm,
like, I don't like to say this very often, but speaking
mm,
of being overwhelmed and
mm,
difficulties and whatnot, when I see the Shigin, like
mm,
the old Chinese characters, and then like the really long poems, and it kind of makes me want to be good at it, you know. not just as a foreigner, but for me, it's like, I don't want to be a good foreigner doing Shigin. I want to be good at Shigin. So where if another person, like if a Japanese person hears me, I don't want them to hear, oh, this foreigner is trying. No, I want them to hear, oh man, he's good. Now, of course, there's always going to be people who have better voices than me, people who have better technique than me. That's, always going to be the case. And I think that's also part of the beauty of trying something like Shigin, because there's so many styles. There's so many different people who've done it. It has such a long history. That you're always finding someone or some technique to kind of challenge yourself with. Yeah. And so I think it can be difficult, it can be challenging, but if you see that challenge as an opportunity to kind of constantly improve, I don't think you'll ever be overwhelmed with something like this, but you'll be constantly, well, like I said, challenged to improve.
なるほど. That's wonderful.
Yeah. Sorry for the long.
That's okay. Yeah, that's okay. So great. So also I'm gonna ask you about you've been Christian, you've been church, and you said the Shigin sounds very similar to church songs. So you've been singing? Have you sung before, or you like to sing?
Well, with that, I am an Eastern Orthodox Christian. Well, I'm trying to be. I'm not the best at it, but I'm trying to be. I'm trying. And I started that going to an Orthodox church when I was in Tennessee in the United States. And the type of church I went to, because if you ever talk to Orthodox Christians, it's kind of like a huge group with many different cultures in it. Like you'll have the Russian church, and the church in Russia will have their own kind of musical history and things like that. And you'll have Serbia, which has their own, and then Georgia. And then you have like the Middle Eastern churches that'll have their own forms of singing, the Greek churches, the churches in Africa. So all of them have their own kind of unique way of singing. And the church I went to in America was an Antiochian Orthodox church, which means it's connected to the Middle Eastern church. The churches in Syria, the churches in Lebanon, and that kind of area.
You're from Nashville, Tennessee.
Well, some of my family is. I'm from Middle Tennessee. Some of my family is in Nashville. And so when I went to this church, we would sometimes, well, not sometimes, we would often do some of the prayers would be sung in multiple languages, right? You'll have mainly English, but then sometimes you'll have a little Greek, and then sometimes you'll have a little Arabic, because it was the Antiochian church. So you'd have a little bit of Arabic in there. And they also had, like, I don't know how to explain this, but like a sort of, maybe I'm saying this wrong, but kind of like a simplified version of Byzantine chanting. If you ever, and for you and maybe for people who don't know what that is, if you ever go to like a traditionally Greek Orthodox church, or maybe like a Middle Eastern Orthodox church, you might, or even sometimes the Romanian churches, I think, you might run into Byzantine chanting. And Byzantine chanting is a form of like Christian church music, chorus music, that goes back about 1,200 years, something like that. And I want to show you and kind of the audience what it looks like. It looks, I don't know if you can see it, but it looks like this.
Man, looks like Arabic.
Yeah, look, and this
Like,
the top. These are the notes. So this would be.
You have sung that before?
Not this traditional type. What we did at my church was kind of a little bit simpler version of it, because if you go, and we didn't use this. We used more of like the Western style sheet music, but this is kind of what it traditionally looks like. And so I started learning that and singing in church before I came to Japan. I wasn't that good, but I started trying a little bit, and I really love.
Is it different than singing pop music? You need a special technique.
Very, very different. It's like, okay, I give an example. Now this is more of the traditional form of the Byzantine chant. These are professional chanters. So if you ever go to like an Orthodox church, because I know Australia has a good Greek. Actually, I think Australia has a good Greek population, and there are some Egyptian churches there too. So if you ever go to one of those, you might be able to hear something similar to this. But this is just an example of it. And well, okay, I'll just play it and see if you can hear it. So I give like a short clip of it. Let me put it on a speaker. And so when I came to Japan and I started doing the Shigin, there's enough, I think. Okay, I think there's enough. Gotta hook up the speaker. I think there's enough of a similarity between the two styles of music that there's something to connect. But anyway, here's a little bit of what Byzantine chant sounds like.
Sure.
When done by professionals. Like that. Actually, wait. Actually,
I like those music that calms me down. It's really like so nice to hear. I like those songs.
Actually, I want to give, because I like that one, but I think this one sounds a little bit more like Shigin. Okay, this one, and this one I think I've played this one for you before, but for the people that are watching this, this is. So what I just played for you now was from a concert. What I'm about to play now is from the middle of a church service in, I think, Lebanon. And I think I've played this for you before, but just for the other people. So, all right. So if you want to see it, this is. So this is in the middle of a service, and if you listen to how he uses his voice,
it's very like similar to Shigin.
That part right there, where his voice is kind of going up like a staircase, is very similar to something you'd hear in Shigin, like at the end of Fujisan, for the one for Mount Fuji, I think.
I wanted to ask you. Sure.
I need to grab my books.
Hi.
That's fine. And I think you can. You can cut this part out later, so you know.
I get it.
But like I was saying, with the part you just heard, where he's elevating his voice, kind of like going up a staircase. It sounds similar to I don't have the book I was looking for, but for example, and I'm trying to find one. So with this song here, just as a small part. So okay, let's listen again to what man sang. Just that one part. And here's him singing. Okay, so you have that kind of, it sounds like his voice is kind of going up and down a staircase. So this is just one part of one song, right? I did not practice this at all, so I'm very sorry if this sounds like Setsuri Haru o Shimu. So it's not exactly the same, but there's certain elements, I think, in the Byzantine music and in the Shigin that kind of sound similar enough. So when I started doing the singing in America, and I didn't do it that long, but a little bit, I started learning a little techniques from the people at church. And then when I came to Japan, and I started doing Shigin, interestingly enough, it helped me better understand the Byzantine music. So like,
Interesting.
I've tried to study the Byzantine music by myself, and it's a completely different system. So it's like really, really hard to do, and it takes a lot of time. But I've noticed that from doing the Shigin, it's really helped me understand some of the basic, what you'd call like the concepts of both styles of music, like the vibrato and breathing techniques and things like that.
Oh, very interesting. So this is first interview, but now makes me want to do more interviews in the future, because I want to ask you more about how Shigin relate to the Byzantine.
Yeah. And I have to be clear. If any of y'all watching or interested in the Byzantine, don't come to me. I'm still learning. I'm still trying to study it. But I will talk about whatever I can. What little I know, I'll try to talk about.
Maybe we should make another video for that.
That would be great. That'd be fun.
So I really want to know more about that. But today it's a first video introduction. So maybe I'll ask you another question for now. But that's very interesting, because I'm doing Shigin, and then I feel, to me, sometimes my friends told me about Irish culture, and then they have, I think, a very old, like a traditional song called Shannos, I think. Okay, I should check the
Is it the Celtic? Is it like related to the Celtic music?
It's also like a person singing, just voice, or maybe accompanied by just one or two instruments, but technically the person sings, and very similar to Shigin sounds. So I feel like, wow, so similar. I feel
that would be cool to watch,
like Irish
an interview
song
about that.
Irish songs, Celtic culture. So I feel so connected to that, through Shigin, and and in my case, I've been abroad. I live in Australia. I study abroad in America, travel around the world. So I'm really hope to do that, like connect to more globally, and spread the Shigin culture to the world.
I think it would be cool. I think it would be cool for you to do like a interview series with people, like try to get in touch with some with some of the, like the people who do that Irish music, and some people from other cultures. Because like I have a friend here who is also like a church friend, and she's Japanese, and her hobby, interestingly enough, I never expected this, was like Indian music. And so she's always like going to these, I don't know if she studies it or not, but she's always going to these like little Indian music events with people playing all these like traditional Indian instruments and everything. And like, I think with music, just like with language, how there's many different languages around the world and all this other stuff, but in my experience, we tend to, even if we speak a different language, we tend to share, for the most part, similar concepts, similar ideas, right? Because we're human, we're all one. I mean? So our languages may be different, how we express these ideas may be different, but we still kind of feel the same thing. I mean? So I think with music, I think it's very easy to connect through music, other cultures, because I think of music as a separate category of language. I see music as sort of kind of I don't know if other people will agree with this, but I see music as, in some ways, as a better form of language than speaking sometimes, right? Because I think there's many things we can express through song or through rhythm or even dance, right? That we can't always express just through talking. Like I remember I did a performance a couple months ago of a Shigin performance, and when I got off stage, well, I went back to wait for the other people to keep going, and one of the old ladies there, one of the obachans there, she said to me, like, it sounded like you were praying. Right. I've heard that from like two people. I've heard that from two people at two different events. When I finished singing, they said they could hear something in my voice. And this one lady said it sounded like you were praying. So I think that is an example of how music can say something deeper than just talking, and it's a great way to connect with people from different cultures, because you can show them, hey, I don't speak your language, I don't have your experiences, but as a human, I understand. You know what I'm saying? And I think music kind of helps share that kind of, because like if you research, or if the people watching this research, if you look up Japanese Shigin, and then, for example, you look up Byzantine chanting in the Orthodox Church, they are completely different. The histories are different. The purposes are completely different. One is more of like just secular kind of culture and discussing things through poetry and music. Another is like religious and prayer and all this other stuff. But there are elements that can be connected, right? Two completely different histories, two completely different cultures, but there are still elements that can be shared. So I think, and I'm talking forever. This is your episode. I'm sorry, but I think
no, but that's wonderful. Yeah, I totally agree.
You more people
with your idea.
Yeah.
I totally agree. ね。なんかすごいいい話。Yes, we should. Okay, we should do this more often. Talking about Shigin music, but So I wanted to ask a little bit more
Oh yeah,
about
yeah. Mm,
your Shigin experience. But
mhm,
何聞いたか So after this wonderful talk,
mhm.
it's hard for me to go back to the questions that I have.
I we can always
but
do a part two.
part two, part two.
Yeah.
なんか、そうね、so I wanted to ask like very Shigin experience. Or
Mhm.
which Shigin did you learn first?
You mean the song
How do you call it? Like a
or the style
poem.
or the poem? The poem. Well, the first, I think the first one I learned was Fujisan.
Okay, same as me. Okay,
Yeah, because I think with the most, because there's a whole bunch of different styles of Shigin, and I think most people, if not everybody, they start with Fujisan. I think that's kind of the standard across the
right.
Shigin world.
And also, Fujisan means mountain Fuji, and mountain Fuji is sort of symbol of like Japan. And
I mean, it makes sense too, because it's like the symbol of Japan, so it makes sense everybody would learn it.
So Shigin, when you learn Shigin, I think your teacher gave you maybe music sheet, like a Shigin music sheet or music text, and it's written in, of course, Japanese and also old Japanese. First of all, how did you read? How did you learn how to read or understand a poem? How long did it take, or how did you do that?
I mean, the first like 3 years of me doing it was just my teacher explaining it to me, and that in and of itself was like an interesting thing, because my first teacher, I've had two. My first teacher is now like in her late 80s, and she doesn't speak English, so it's her explaining it all in Japanese to me, right? And so there was that, because in the beginning there would be some words I don't understand that she's saying, and so it would take a little bit of time, but she was real sweet in how she kind of explained it to me, and now I've gotten to the point where I can read the explanations myself. And even still, because there's still some words I don't know, I can look them up myself. In the beginning, it was basically just being taught, and kind of through discussion, I would learn what the songs meant. And then later on, I got actual like official explanation books that have the history of the particular poem, a little history about the author, some translation, because as you mentioned, most of this is written. Now the red marks, that's basically the accents for your voice, and this can be completely different depending on the style you do. But the text itself is, usually it'll be written in hiragana on one side, and then you'll have it written in more traditional Chinese characters. And this can be really difficult because, as I mentioned, it's the traditional Chinese characters. So the older versions of what are used in Japan and I think mainland China now. So when you get some of the explanation books, they'll sometimes have a translation of the traditional characters into more modern standard Japanese. And so, that can be an added difficulty. But at the same time, it's kind of cool because you're also learning, oh, hey, this is an older way to write this kanji. So if you like studying kanji, it's actually pretty cool because you get to learn some older versions of the characters.
There's so many different type of Shigin poems.
So this is the standard is kind of like this. Like basically one page, and you'll have 4 columns.
Yeah.
And
So,
I forget how you say it in Japanese, but like you'll have the beginning of the poem, and then you'll have sort of like the continuation of, or the building up of a story, and then you'll have kind of like the crescendo, or the big twist in the story. Something changes, something happens. This tends to be the most energetic portion of the song, where like all the energy comes from. And then you'll have the final column, which will be the resolution of the story, or you'll have like you know, the moral of the story, where it kind of summarizes the point of the poem, right? And this will be kind of the main. Many of them will be like this in 4 columns, but sometimes you'll have ones that are like 3 or 4 pages long.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for showing the text. That's good. That's very good. And that's actually what I wanted to do, maybe next time or different time. There's so many words that hard to translate into English. It's hard for Japanese as well, because it's very old, and also very how to call it, terminology, like shigin, like special words. So I want to discuss with you maybe next time or different time how to describe in English, how to say that in English. I really would like to learn how to say
That's a good question. That's a good question, because there's so many. I've just started. Yeah.
So
I'm not really sure myself. Like, a question I have for myself is, well, one, how do you explain this? What's a good, simple way to explain it in English? And also, if you were to translate it into English to sing it, how could you make an English version of this shigin that sounds good to hear? You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Like, not just translating it, but you have to also compose it in a way where it sounds
exactly.
I mean,
so yes, that's exactly. Like, for example, like you just showed us, there's only the short version has only 20 Chinese characteristics, and 20 to 30, and it's very short poem, but it has a lot of meaning around it. And it's not just simple, or it's snowing, or it's cold, but also this poem is so famous because it means more than that. Like, for example, I said, okay, it's raining, cold, I went home. Maybe that's the poem. But if you want to understand what it means, then what rains symbolizes, or what this house implies. So Japanese language, or I don't know other culture, but there's so many meanings, and it's very deep meanings. So you how did you learn that?
Well, I mean, kind of like I said before, it's just through talking about it. You know, I'd ask my teachers, "Hey, what does this mean? And I've always liked. I've never been good at it, but I always like poetry. And you know, I don't read that much poetry. I'm not, really versed on it, but I like it. I like the idea of trying to use language in a simple form to express very deep ideas, right? And I think, but also it kind of goes back to what I said before with different cultures, different language and music. Like, we may express ideas and feelings in different ways, but I think all humans are able to understand the core feeling, right? Like, there are several different poems in Shigin that express loneliness, sorrow, tragedy, revenge, joy, all these different things, and how they express them are very Japanese, or in some cases very Chinese, because there are many Chinese poets in Shigin. It's kind of a mix of Japanese poets and Chinese poets, but the way it's expressed culturally may be very Japanese or very Chinese in its outward expression. But if you dig deep and you look at the core message, like anybody from any country and any culture can understand sorrow. Anyone can understand joy. Anyone can understand, revenge. And so I don't think it's that difficult. It takes time, with the language. It takes some time, maybe learning the cultural background to help you better understand it. But I think at the end of the day, if you understand pain, if you understand joy, if you understand, these emotions, you'll get it.
Right. So I'm so happy that I met you, because Shigin is such a wonderful culture. And I like Shigin, myself too. I've been singing and I love Shigin. But it's never been brought to the world because it's very domestic. Like, it's always just one of the Japanese traditions, culture that stays inside of Japan only, and it never been brought to the world, or because it never been translated to English. Right. Maybe you can be the first person to.
No, I don't want to be the first. I don't want to be the first. It's too scary to be the first person. I would much,
you're the only one who can do this.
I would much prefer to kind of introduce people to other people about it. Like for example, well, let me back up. You mentioned how it's very kind of domestic. And I was
if it's the right words, I don't know.
No. It kind of is. It's a very kind of
within
Japanese
Japan
thing.
Very, very Japanese.
And I was talking to my current teacher about this. And she's lived in America for years, and she's done like jazz music and all this other stuff. So she knows culture. We were talking about how I don't know how to say this, but it's kind of a very closed world.
Closed.
Art.
Cool.
And we were talking, and that could be bad, that could be good. That's a different discussion. But I think it's important to kind of understand that there may be a reason to it. Like that's part of the experience of Shigi, not just, hey, this is cool music or this is fun. But there's also, you kind of have to wonder, well, why isn't this as big as other types of music? Kind of like with, again, to go back to like the Byzantine chanting, it has an incredibly rich and ancient culture, far older than Shigi.
Right. It's far older.
It's like well over 1,000 years, like easily over 1,000 years. And it's kind of locked. Well, not locked, but it's kind of kept, like it has a purpose. Right? Like you don't really go to a party and you just start singing Byzantine chant, right? Because like it's prayer music. It has a purpose. And inside this purpose, it's just incredibly beautiful. I hope I'm saying that right. And then I think with the Shigin too, it kind of has a purpose. It's designed, from what I learned, I could be wrong, but it seems to be designed to be very focused in a certain like direction. And if you're able to kind of really get into that focus point, like it's fantastic. So like, for example, when we do the performances within the style, when we have like a big group performance, like when you say the title of the poem, you already started singing, right? Like, even though you haven't sung yet, like that is the true beginning of the song, right? How you say the title, right? How
Yes.
you stand, how you do this thing. And there's all of these details in it that I think make it hard. I mean, yeah, it's strict. It's strict. But that's not always a bad thing. You know, I wouldn't, I mean, I had this talk with my teacher. I said, yeah, it's kind of strict. But then I thought about it, and maybe in some cases, yeah, it's kind of strict. But in some other cases, I think you could say it's very focused. Right. Again, to go back to like when I started learning the church music in America, the choir director, he told us, he said, I think he's a choir director. He said, this type of music is not like, you know, American gospel. It's not like pop music. The focus is not you. The focus is the words that you're singing. Because you got to think this is prayer, right? So the focus of this music is not your voice, but sort of what you're singing is the focus. And the style of the music of the chanting is meant to reflect what the words are. And it all goes back to the prayers and the words that are being sung. Same thing, I think, with Shigin is the style of music is very focused, not necessarily to put attention on the singer, but to put attention on the words. Like my grandmama sensei told me a couple years ago, we were doing this song that was like really, really, really sad. It was like a mother during wartime, and like she had no home, she had a new baby, and she was just like really, really sad. She's like, I think I'm gonna die. I don't have enough food for my baby. What do I do? What do I do? It's a really, really sad song. And what my teacher said was, you don't show your emotions, but with your voice, you make the audience feel the message of the song. So she was like, you don't cry, make them cry. Right. And so I think with the world of Shigin, it can be very strict. But at the same time, it can be very focused. And I think that's an important thing for people to experience, a style of music where it's not about, you know, the highest notes or the, you know, all these crazy melodies, although that's good. But it's more of a focused, almost like meditating type of singing, right?
Yes. So when I was in Japan, I attended many contests, Shigin contest performance, and every time when I sang, and I didn't. Sometimes it didn't go well, and it was because I tried to show off my skills, and then I failed. But when I was selfless, like just focus on the story, lyrics, and I truly want audience to understand what this poem means. Then everybody just say, "Oh, Yukari was good. He was good," and I was, "Oh, totally forgot about myself." Like, so I understand.
That so performance. That performance where the woman said it sounded like I was praying. One of my friends recorded it, and usually I don't like hearing myself sing. I think many people feel that way, right? You don't like hearing your own voice. But I watched that video, and I was proud of myself. I listened. I listened to it. I was like, wow. I don't normally say that. I was like, I did a good job, you know.
That's
like,
great.
Good job, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, usually you don't want to hear your singing.
But I watched.
I don't want to hear my voice either. But
like, I did a good job. And
but that's nice.
like you said, it's kind of it's kind of like a paradox in a way. Like
Right.
the the best it seems, if you
Mm,
want to get the best result out
mm,
of your voice, you need to not think about your voice in a weird way,
mm,
right? Like you
mm.
don't put so much
Exactly.
attention on your showing off, because it won't work. You're
Mm,
gonna make a mistake, it's gonna sound
mm,
bad. But
mm,
if you focus on sharing something,
mm.
like, if you pick one of the happy songs,
Yeah.
like there's
Mm,
what is it,
mm.
Takarabune, right? Takarabune
Oh,
is another
that's good. Yeah.
really famous one, and that's basically like a celebratory song. It's about
Mm,
good
yeah.
fortune and happiness and all those stuff.
Right.
Now, if you sing that song and you
Mm,
want to show off, it's not
mm,
going to sound as good
mm.
as if you're just happy
True.
and you're
Mm,
singing it.
right.
You know what I'm saying? So,
Exactly.
yeah,
Mm,
I think that's another part of it, because uh,
mm,
it with the Shigin, it, it's weird. It's like the more
yes.
you focus on the song and the mood of the song, and the
Mm,
less you focus on yourself, the
mm,
better it sounds. So
mm.
in,
That's right.
like, I don't want to say anything weird, but it kind of reminds me, again, like, I'm Christian.
Mm,
This is like the big connection I can make. It kind of reminds me of that kind of prayer in a small
mm,
way,
mm.
right? It's not,
Okay.
now these poems aren't prayers, they're not
Mm,
religious. Some of them have kind of Buddhist teachings in them, um, which can be another episode, which is actually really interesting. But I
mm,
think there's that core of not focusing on yourself, but trying to deliver to others, like the
mm,
audience, kind
mm,
of a
mm,
deeper truth. You know what I'm saying? I
mm,
don't know. I'm talking too
mm,
much. You can please,
Nothing, nothing. Yeah. So it's been 1 hour already. It's so
yeah. Yeah,
fast.
I
So
think we
like
need a part two. We can go on forever about this.
yeah, and I'm just getting nervous because I have to edit this video. So I think I should wrap up for today.
Yeah.
I know the last time we talked, it was more than 3 hours. So we could
Yeah.
go on forever, right?
Right.
But we have to wrap up maybe. So
Right.
just a last question. You
Yeah.
said you joined performance
Mhm.
recently.
Mhm.
Do you have video? Then you're gonna upload to
I
your
have
YouTube
one.
video?
I have one.
Mm,
Because I don't, like, I tried
understand.
to make like a
Mm,
YouTube channel
mm,
focused on my Shigin.
mm,
I don't use it so much.
mm,
I sometimes do, but if I do a performance or something that I think
mm,
is nice, I'll
mm,
upload it
mm,
there.
mm.
So the
Yeah, I want to
performance
watch
I was
that.
telling you about,
Mm,
uh, I uploaded that, so I have a video of that performance, and I'll send that to
mm,
you, and maybe you can
yeah,
show the people here.
yeah, I'd love to hear that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the wonderful Shigin performance.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so it's been 1 hour. It's been great. Thank you so much for joining me, Justin.
Very
Thank you for
well.
coming today.
Thank
And
you.
we should do this again.
Oh yeah,
And we
anytime.
should make more videos. Thank you so
Thank you
much.
very much.
See you next time. Thank you.
I,
Yay!
I
Yay!